Hello, my friends. Si no hay sangre, no hay vida. If there is no blood, there is no life. I'm doing this video from my home here in Mexico, and today this will be the topic of this video: Mexico. What a way to start a Monday. Look at this mesmerizing view. And you know, when I came here first, almost 20 years ago, there was nothing. I brought basically electricity, water, Wi-Fi, and now you've got this beautiful 100+ feet infinity pool, this beautiful home with a second story and a private movie theater, and a beautiful casita as well up there. I don't know if you guys can see, but anyway, today's video is not about my house, although I have to say there is a certain pride in, you know, showing a house that you've designed and built from the ground up. I think that every man given an opportunity should be able to write a song, shoot a movie, build their own house before they leave this world. And I have done 3 for 3, so it doesn't have to be a masterpiece as long as, you know, you follow your passion. So today I am particularly excited because I want to be talking to you guys about Mexico. Gosh, look at this view over there. I love it. So peaceful, so absolutely mesmerizing. Mexico is an incredible place. It's probably, I describe it as a humbling experience. When I first came here almost 22 years ago, and I am basically about an hour and a half north of Cabo San Lucas, about 55 minutes, less than an hour north from the international airport of Cabo San Lucas. I'm on the Sea of Cortez in a little town called Los Barriles, which means the barrels. When I came here for a fishing trip, this was not something that most people were doing, because the vast majority, I would say over 95% of people that come in Baja, in that part of Mexico, all go to Cabo, where you have those multi-billion-dollar, you know, resorts, all-inclusive, gated communities and whatnot. But I wanted to experience something a little bit different, and the fishing here is really, really good. So I took the drive, and boy, oh boy, I was so excited. I will always remember, it was on a summer trip. I think it was back in July of, I want to say maybe 2002, something like that. I was so excited, and I immediately said to myself, oh my God, there is so many things that you can do here. Everything is possible. This is the next frontier. This is the next El Dorado, you know. And so I immediately started to look at buying a bunch of plots, and I made mistakes because I just couldn't leave without buying something. You know, I wanted to have a piece of that dream, and I ended up buying plots that were completely useless and a waste of time, and I ended up having to transact them away. Basically, I've lost almost $50,000 or $60,000 on those plots. But you know, I don't want to think about it. And you know, you live the life, you live and learn, right? You can't hold back on your mistakes. You have to move forward. But then I discovered this beautiful community of Buena Vista, and I just wanted to be part of this. And I bought this large lot, and the views were incredible. And then, you know, many years later, I had an opportunity. I had some money after selling a house in the Bay Area, and I had some money left, and I was able to design and build a place. And it really, it's more than just having, your dream and building your dream home. It's about having access to a very different experience. And for me, I kind of had that experience, I was going to say, in a past life, certainly when I was younger, because as some of you know, I grew up in Ivory Coast, in Kenya, in Madagascar, and there is a lot of things that are very similar to those places. And yeah, of course, you don't have lights, as you do in the US. You don't have stores that are stocked the same way that you do in the US. So you're very limited in your choices. For example, it's a world country, so you have a lot of limitation, but it's a raw experience, very humbling. Everything is a lot of things that is cash based, and I don't know. Time feels different here, and every time I come here, even for 4 days, it feels like I've been here for like a month, because everything slows down, because you have to make an effort here to get what you need, to get what you want. It is definitely not as fast paced as what you see in the US or in the West in general. And then there is the heat, right? It's a dry heat. It's not the heat that you find in Florida. It's a different kind of heat, which is also, I think, to me, very pleasant. And then there is the absolutely mesmerizing Sea of Cortez, which I've talked to on a number of other videos. I was saying this is the stuff of legend, right? Because this is where essentially all of the babies from around the Pacific Ocean, this is where they come to have their babies. All of the adults come here to have their babies, right? So there is an incredible level of energy here. You can feel it. In fact, I feel that I don't sleep that much when I'm here, because there is such a high vibration of energy. Some people are not sensitive to that, but I certainly have. I am. And you go to bed fairly early because you're tired. So probably 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then you wake up at 5:30, and it's just a different pace altogether. And the thing that I will say is that there are some areas of frustration, and I think you learn to cope with that as soon as you hopefully learn to let go of your ego. And what I mean by ego is expectations in terms of what you normally see, in the West, and just approaching everything with a smile, and understanding that the culture here is very different, in that people are very actually respectful of what you've built. There is a lot of attention being placed in the balance, the equilibrium that we have in this community between the locals and people that are like me, coming from Canada, the US, or Europe. And it works really well, hand in hand, right? I will say that Baja is probably one of the most expensive area in Mexico, specifically this area of Cabo San Lucas, East Cape. You'd be shocked to see that a lot of those homes are $1 million homes, a couple $1 million, and certainly on the beach, well over $1 million. And so all that money pouring here has been very good for the community, right? The whole story around safety and the cartels and all that, yeah, I mean, the reality is that the locals are very, very good at kind of keeping that under wraps. There are things happening that we really don't know that mostly affect locals. I would say that the cartel activity here is way less violent than in other parts of Mexico. If you think about Acapulco, for example, or Guerrero, or places in Tijuana, or even now places in Cancun, the way things are being handled here is I think makes a lot more sense. And I think most of the cartel in charge here are smart business people. They own hotels, they own largest piece of development, and the last thing that they want is for tourism to go away. That's a multi-billion-dollar industry here. So I speak Spanish fluently. It's easier for me because originally I'm from France, and so Spanish is very, close to French, and it came naturally for me, especially as I was dealing with all the builders so I hear things and I'm aware of what's going on behind, closed doors. But again, I've been here for 22 years. I think I've never had any problems personally. The only issues that I've had, and I've done the trip, that's a 1,300 miles from all the way from San Diego, even from San Francisco, all the way to Cabo. And the only issues that I've had was that what I call the ratitas, the little rats, which are the federales, basically the federal police, right? And they want what's called the mordita, morder, what bites you. They wanna they stop you for stupid reasons, and it used to be a matter of $20 here and there. It's gotten a lot more expensive now, and unfortunately, you kind of have to negotiate your way out, but eventually you have to pay. And that's a very sad state of affair, but that's just the reality of where we are. But I've had a few encounters with them. Usually it goes pretty well. I always try to put humor on that. It was a very tough time during COVID because all the roads were blocked, and so I think a lot of people were kind of starving. But I remember that one time where I got stopped because I was towing my Airstream, my 27-foot Airstream, and the policeman was telling me, "Hey, you don't have, those long mirrors on the side. That's not legal. You can see what's going on." And I was like, "Hey, dude, I've got a rear end camera. I can see everything." And he was like, "Oh shit, I got to find another reason." So he made up some other bullshit, and I ended up having to give him almost $100. He was pretty hardcore. Otherwise, they basically, threaten you to confiscate everything. I mean, I didn't have the time. I didn't want to get into an argument. I didn't want to, go and lose 2 hours. You can always do that and basically call their bluff, which is sometimes what you need to do. Call the bluff and actually go to the police station and then make a big deal out of what's going on. I would also recommend videotaping, those interactions. That usually puts a cold shower on what they're trying to do. But other than that, my experience here has always been incredibly positive. Even during the process of building the house, which has been in 2 phases, right? Was a crew of 7 people. The first phase took almost 17 months. And then the second phase with the casita and the second story took about 6 months. But I was here most of the time. And, I've never had a nail missing on this area of construction. So, you may run into crews or people that are trying to rob you or do things like that. But in general, no. I mean, and the reason for that is because this community here is a very small, tightly knitted community where you only have about 2,500 souls that are permanente, that are full time. And it's a split between locals and foreigners. And then, of course, during the high season, which starts in November after the hurricane season, which is about to start in about 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. Usually it's mid to late August through late October, where you have absolutely massive rains and wind and hurricane. And I had a couple of those where I was staying in my house, and you can see how thick those walls are. This is all made of rebar and cement. I mean, there is nothing that's going to happen to this house. It's this particular section of the house is actually 3 stories. So if I move here, I'll show you. You've got a garage underneath, almost a 2-car garage, and then this area here, and then a third area up there. This is not going anywhere. This is extremely sturdy and built basically for category 5 hurricanes, right? Maybe the windows could break, but I've got those beautiful anti-hurricane windows that I have ordered specially. This looks like wood, but it's actually all aluminum. Anyway, what I was saying is that the the actual period of hurricanes that starts in late August, and I'm about to close the house here, and then open the house again probably the last week of October, is very much the image of Mexico. It's a place, and that's why I love this country so much. It's absolutely a place of extremes. It's a place of extremes. It's a place where you could see 12 inch of rain falling in 4 hours. I mean, I've seen it. It's, and I'll show you because the proof is in the pudding. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but on my entrance here, let me see. I don't know if you can see on the entrance, there are little walls that I've built so that when the water rolls down, it doesn't affect too much the entrance of the house. And you have to also, you see those, the way I've had to add those little walls here, 1, 2, 3. The reason for that is because you have so much rain coming down with such a violence that it destroys everything. And here, and again, you don't know this until you experience those kinds of things. Here I had to build, I built the pool, well, I had it built, and I remember one summer, none of that here existed. The shower was here, but you see that contention wall, there's one here, and then there is a second one. It's a massive retaining wall there. Okay, well, this didn't exist, and what happened is that the whole water went down with mud and everything and rolled down the pool. It was a complete disaster. I remember having to work, and try to prevent the water to get into the pool. And I mean, those things are humbling. Those things you laugh about, years after, right? In the moment, it's not always very pleasant, but this is just an example. So such a violence, such an intensity, it's absolutely, I think, a great description of what this country is, right? When the shit hits the fan, it hits the fan in a way that you cannot even imagine. But it's also not always, negative. In fact, I will share with you a story. I'm going to try to be as descriptive as I can. It just happened a couple of days ago, so the memory is still very vivid. But I wish I have had a camera on me, a waterproof camera on me, because the way I describe it, otherwise people just cannot believe, right? So I bought a toy a year ago. It's called an e-foil. And an e-foil, an electric e-foil, is basically a surf that has an engine and a mast, which is about 3 feet long. And you have a turbine, and it's powered by a large battery, and those new generations now allow you to be on the water for 2.5 hours, which is absolutely awesome. And then you have a controller, and what you do is you get on the water, get some speed, stand up, and then you accelerate and with moving with your body. It takes a little bit of practice. It took me about a week. It's tricky. It's not that easy, but once you get a hang of it, that's actually fairly straightforward. Once you get that speed, the surf goes up, and now you're above water. You're flying above water. So your brain probably doesn't have the time to register what's going on, because it's kind of like riding a wave, but at the same time flying above water. So there is very little resistance, and it almost feels like it's a freaking dream, right? Because you're above the water, and then the way you navigate is basically by looking. Wherever you look, you turn, and of course it goes with your body and the weight. But you don't really move your feet at all or your legs at all. It's a very peaceful, subtle way to navigate. Long story short, I went very far. I went almost probably, I want to say, easily 5 or 6 miles, all the way. And on my way back, I saw a lot of sort of water moving, and we have a lot of rays here. You can hear them at night, with their splash. Literally, you can hear them, you can see them. You see whales, of course, you see a whole bunch of sea life over there. But what happened to me at 7 in the morning a couple of days ago is that suddenly I had a pod of at least 200, maybe more, dolphins that were literally at arm length, looking at me, kind of like, what is this guy doing? He's above water. And they were with me, and they accompanied me for like a half an hour, and they were jumping, almost like touching me. And I could see them under the surf, and there were so many of them. It was just crazy. I mean, it was just like, those minutes, those moments. I was trying to explain that to my wife and my children. I mean, there are things that are very, very precious. There are things that you really have to take that in, right? Because it's the universe telling you, hey man, this is freaking awesome. Like, life is really, really good. So needless to tell you that I had a big smile on my face when I got home, and then you have your little coffee. And so it goes back to, again, telling you how absolutely extreme in every good way this country is, and it just makes you feel alive, right? Even I had a bee problem on the pool because it's so hot that a lot of the bees are extremely thirsty, and I had thousands of them, probably over 1,000, 10,000 maybe, coming and drinking, and people are afraid of bees, and a couple of them, picked. I say, kissed me, stung. I got stung like about 3 times, and it's painful. But in a way, I was like, you know what? I'm trying to get rid of them. I was using mint. They hate the mint. And they defended themselves. And I was like, it's okay. It's part of the experience, right? Everything that you experience in Mexico really makes you feel alive. And I'm a big believer that when you're healthy and before you go in the darkness and you're lying on your bed, you'd be looking at all of your years, and you'll be thinking about, have I pushed myself enough? Have I exhausted myself enough? Have I, as a stone, exposed myself enough to life, to the world, like the stone that is being rolled over on the beach, that has sharp edges, and that with time eventually becomes a beautiful pebble because of all of the strength, all of the ongoing sometimes pain and tribulation that has occurred during all those years. Such is life, and such life should be. But you can only achieve that if you're open to those types of experiences, and not being comfortable sometimes, right? And stepping away definitely from your area of comfort. So I will close this video by saying that I'm tempted to not say too much about how fantastic the people are, and the food, and just the lifestyle here, because, to be honest, a lot of the news is being so negative about Mexico, and a lot of people don't understand Mexico, especially some, a large portion of the American folks, and of course with the very racist rhetoric that we hear from some individuals with a red head, that feeds into that sort of frenzy, and we don't need those people here, frankly. So people that are sort of prejudiced against Mexico, that's fine. We don't need those people, really. We don't. We're fine here. And it's kind of a little secret that I wish, and I think will continue to be protected, because people are just ignorant. They're just so freaking ignorant, and that's because they're scared, But the reality is that you cannot own a gun here, and gun violence is probably 1,000 times less than in the U.S., where you have a shooting every 2 hours, and here when you have a shooting, it's like big news. It's a complete joke, right? The last thing that I will say, mark my words, Mexico will become one of the top 2 or 3 most powerful nation in the world in the next 20 years. It is starting to already replace China with the concept of near shoring, where you are able to produce goods at a much cheaper rate, and it's right there, right? The US is right there. There is a lot of competence here. I mean, look at this place. They've built this basically on my specs. This grill, I remember it was a weekend. I told them, hey, can you just build me a grill? And they did it in like a day, putting it together, forging the metal, putting it together, laying down the bricks, painting it, and it was done. I think it cost me maybe 200 bucks, you know. Who does that? So it's just a very ingenious people, and they love what they do, and they are very orgullosos, very proud of what they do and what is their reputation. The absolute last thing that I will say is that, again, from an economical standpoint, it's a cash economy. If you don't have cash here, you don't survive. Just like if you don't work, you don't eat. Si yo no trabajo, yo no como. And it's a much healthier system than in the US, where a lot of it is on credit cards and whatnot. So the fundamentals of this country are absolutely incredible. And I am a big believer that opportunities to grow here are going to be incredible. And I really look forward to being right again, because, again, I was right about this place. It completely, exploded, and there's so many people coming now, investments and whatnot. But I am very grateful that I had the chance to follow my dreams and live, all this time, all these experiences. I think it's a true gift. And I will close with my initial statement. Never forget, si no hay sangre, no hay vidad. If there is no blood, there is no life. So drawing blood, yes, might be some pain involved here. Could be painful, but that's what life is about. If you enjoyed that video, please give me a follow, share, like. I'll see you on the next one.